We're going to talk about how to sharpen your scissors. You've got shears, scissors, they're basically the same thing. These are both old pairs of decorator's scissors, seamstress sewing scissors, whatever you want, whatever type. But basically they're all sharpened the same way. And you can make it confusing, but it's so simple to sharpen your own scissors. And I want to show you how to do it with just a saw file like this, or a flat file. You could use a flat file too. This one would do the job just the same if you wanted to use a wider flat file. But this one's a brand new file, and it will cut the steel for these scissors beautifully. And let me show you what it takes to sharpen a pair of scissors. Now these scissors here they're cutting fine, but every so often I notice that, see this? It's decided not to cut, and it's decided to fold the piece of paper. And the reason for that is less to do with the sharpness, although these definitely do need sharpening. Now, can you get in on that edge? You can see this edge is all rusted. And actually, I would have trouble cutting myself with these scissors, even if I tried. So they do need refining. That edge needs refining. So I would focus on getting the rust. This is a hollow grind in here, so it means it's hollowed this way. But this very edge will be slightly flat. And what I would do is I would take this face, run it onto my sharpening plate, and take off a very fine surface off here and off here. And then I would focus on the shear part here, this part here, that needs to be filed, and it's filed at a slight angle. So when you actually file, even though the file may not be held this way, it'll be held at this angle, but it'll be held along the blade like this. And we'll do what we call draw filing, and we will pull a continuous stroke from here towards the tip and off the tip there. And that will create a perfect cutting edge for these scissors. So first of all, what you need is just one plate, and you can use any kind of plate. If you've got diamond plates, that's great. If you don't, take a piece of emery paper, 250 to 300 grit, stick it on, just place it onto a wooden board, a flat wooden board preferably, and take your shears and just rub this face along the plate just like this. And what that's going to do is just refine this inside edge along here to give you a straight and clean edge. It gives you some fresh steel. So we're just going down to that fresh steel like this. So I'm saying you could do this just with emery paper, and right on this edge here now, you can see I'm getting a flat edge, and this is what enables the shears or the scissors to cut right up to the very tip. So I would take this face down, and then I would take this one. I've already started on this one, you can see here. So that one's ready to go. You got that? So we've done that. Now we're going to focus on the bevel. Now this is very loose in here. Can you see how loose this is? We're going to tighten those up in just a minute. But first of all, these go in the vise here. Any kind of vise will usually work. Let me move it up so that the other half is less problematic. So here now this is where my file is level, so I drop my hand, usually about 10 degrees. A 10-degree bevel will work. Now I would normally have my hand on this side and I pull the file across this way, but then my hand is going to block you. So I'm going to put my hand here, which works just as effectively, and I start here and I move my file from one end to the other, and I'll show you what I've got before I go any further, because these shears were ground by machine, so it's very fast to grind it by machine. It's no faster than doing it with a file. But can you see right along this cutting edge, you can see those grind marks. That's where the grinder is just pulled across a grinding wheel like this. and it does sharpen them. I'm not saying it doesn't, but this is so much cleaner because you get a continuous edge along here. So watch what happens now. So I'm going to come along here, and this is filing off the rust obviously, but it's also leveling the whole edge of these shears. So I'll do one half here just to show you what I've got halfway along, going right into the corner because I want my scissors to start cutting right at the very beginning. So now can you see along this edge, the first half or 2/3 now is clear steel, dead flat. This part you can see the contrast between what the machine gave me. I don't like that if I'm cutting with a pair of scissors. I would tend to do it this way. So this now, take it all the way along and off the edge. Try not to drop off the edge. You don't want to round the points. So I'm getting rid of those grind marks from the machine. These tips are actually, this tip part here is harder than here for some reason. So the steel was hardened and that part was harder than the main body. So I've got my main bevel. Now I'm dropping my hand and I'm just taking the corner, the hard corner off here. When I put these together now, I can feel that edge biting one against the other. That's because there's a burr on the inside, and that burr just drops right off with that one closure. So I do the same on this other one now. So this one's rusted too. Not good for a dressmaker. So here, now this side here, I can tell that this steel is harder than this one just by the file going across this surface. And it's almost too hard for this file. So these are good shears, but they would be hard to sharpen if they were even a fraction harder than they are now. If that happens, then you have to go to diamonds. You can't continue to sharpen. So in that case, I would take this plate here, diamond plate, and I would come up here and work this diamond plate round like this. And that will give me a sharp edge too. But this file seems to be working fine. I'm trying to get all the marks out left by the machine. Now when I put these two together again now, listen. That's the burr breaking off. Now these scissors will cut just fine. And what I check is they start right at the beginning here. They go all the way to the very tip. So now these are doing great, but one thing I have to do is tighten up this here. Now these are meant to be planished or hammered right on here because there's no screw to tighten it up. This is the best kind, this is the easiest kind. The one thing you want to watch for is not to go one punch too hard. What we're going to do is take a hammer. This is my anvil, this is my hammer, and I'd start to tighten here. Then I just check myself, because one blow too many and I'm past the point of return. So I'm angling my hammer over because this is a bit like a rivet. I'm rounding over this point a little bit more. See, it's still quite loose. It's going to be loose here because there's no, remember that these often are bent slightly or even twisted. Sometimes the manufacturer actually twists it so that when you're shear cutting like this, the scissor is pulled in to task. There we have it. That's perfect, I think, now. Yeah, now it doesn't bulk at all. It's perfectly... Now you're going to say, well, you shouldn't cut paper with scissors. Yes, you should. Scissors are meant to cut paper as well as cloth. If you say to me you shouldn't cut paper if you're using cloth scissors, then I agree with you. So if you're a dressmaker, like my mother was, I sharpened her scissors. She taught me to sharpen scissors. And this is perfect. So this other pair, what's wrong with these? This is another pair. These are hollow ground. You can see the nickel plating here has come off. It's not going to affect the scissors. I really don't like nickel plating, but it does stop scissors from rusting for a long time usually. But wherever you get this shear edge, nickel cannot remain in place on a sharp edge. It's eventually going to fracture, and it has to fracture. Now these have been sharpened before, because if they came from the manufacturer, they probably, although yeah, some of the manufacturers do grind off after the nickel has been applied. Nickel is just a hard plating that coats over the steel and stops. It doesn't rust, so it's perfect. So this is what it takes to sharpen a pair of scissors like this. So now I'm going with a continuous stroke here, like that. This is what we call draw filing. So that's pulling a spiraled length of steel off that face. And we flip over. Can you do this? Absolutely you can. Who could not do this? Why would you not be able to do this? A simple file costs you £4. And just draw that file from stem to stern, from beginning to end. And once you've got that rust down and those undulations out, then it's just a continuous stroke from this end to that end, and you've got a pair of scissors that will cut anything you want to. Now they're cutting so beautifully already with nothing else. I need to do nothing else. I might need to tighten this up. Can you see this one? This one has a screw thread in, but that screw thread is probably not going to tighten because I saw the other side. So actually it is. That surprised me. So that's how you would sharpen that one. So that one's fine. Look at this now. You've got a pair of scissors that will last you for 100 years if you use them every day. These scissors will last you a lifetime. Get the rust off. Refile every year or so probably. These are made in Sheffield, but they could be made in Milwaukee, I don't know. They could be made in India. Lifetime tool. I just noticed, you know, I tightened this one here. Can you see? If I put this in here again now, I can tighten this screw like that. No, I can't. Yeah, I can, yeah. What happens sometimes when you tighten that screw and you start using the shears again like this springs back. It's tight in the recess in the countersunk part, and sometimes you do have to go in and peen this other side, and in this case we do have to. So we're going to do this a little bit differently this time. Open your shears, and you're going to planish here this side. You're going to peen this over here. Now in this case the screw is flush with the outside almost. It's not quite flush. So what I do is, and somebody's done this before, I don't know if you can see, maybe you can and maybe you can't. Right in here I can see 2 punch marks on this side and another punch mark on that side. It's hard to see, but what I would do is I would take something like this. This is, can you see the point on this? This is called a center punch. It's just used by metal workers mostly. And what you do is you place your scissors on here, you take your center punch and you go just off center a couple of times around the shears just to move the steel towards the edge like that. Can you see that? And what that does is it pushes the steel towards the the side of the hole that was drilled through this piece of the shears. So now this has tightened those up. Actually, it's tightened just a wee bit too much, just a little bit. So one blow too many. These cut so perfectly now. We can go in, and they're cutting fine, but now they're too tight. If you've done that, it might be that you need a drop of oil. That's one thing, because sometimes this is rusted between the two plates. And the other thing is, if it is too tight, it could be that all you need to do is take a rub or two on this plate here, right along the cutting edge, and hold that inside face just a little bit. Can you see that steel? This black powder is the steel. And just that will ease that entry. It'll give a slight leading edge. That's done it. That's all it needed. It was just a little bit extra on there. And the scissors cut right up to the very tip, which is what I wanted. There you have it. Simple tricks. Very easily. Oh, there's another thing. Sometimes if this doesn't quite close in here, sometimes the tip gets worn, especially if they've ground it on a grinding machine, it'll take the tip out. You don't touch the tip, you don't touch the length of here, you just touch right in here. You can take a file and just file that little bit inside here like this. Just file 3 strokes here, and that will usually close up the very points of your tips. Great. Thank you.